everybody knows Roger Ver. So it's a very special interview, and let's get details about Bitcoin Cash. Hello, Roger Ver.
Hi, Tom.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you for the interview.
Thank you too.
All right. So can you just briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. My name's Roger Ver. I've been involved in Bitcoin full-time for almost 8 years now. I'm currently the CEO of BitcoinCash, and I'm busy promoting Bitcoin Cash as cash for the world in alignment with the original Bitcoin white paper that made Bitcoin successful in the first place.
All right. So I think that a lot of people will actually know the difference between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and all the conflicts that's going on right now. But can you just give a very brief background of the situation between Bitcoin and...
Yeah, so originally there was just one version of Bitcoin and everybody wanted it to succeed. And then a camp within that version of Bitcoin started using censorship and propaganda to stifle anybody with an opinion different from theirs. And the people that were doing the censorship were people that thought that Bitcoin should be something other than what was described in the original Bitcoin white paper. So they successfully managed to divert the entire Bitcoin project into something that doesn't resemble what was described in the original Bitcoin white paper at all, yet they still want their project to be called Bitcoin. And they're very upset with the people that still want to follow the original roadmap for Bitcoin that made it successful in the first place, Bitcoin Cash. And so for me, I wish the Bitcoin Core people good luck, but that project isn't the Bitcoin that's described in the white paper, and in my book it's not Bitcoin at all. Bitcoin Cash is, and Bitcoin Cash still has the same economic formula that allowed Bitcoin to become popular in the first place, and that's using it as cash for the world. And we actually built a great tool to make it easy for people to see that. If they go to free.bitcoin.com, anyone anywhere in the world can get some free Bitcoin Cash sent right there to their phone instantly, basically for free. That's no longer possible on Bitcoin Core at this point.
All right. I'm sorry, Roger, but I don't get a very clear understanding of that situation. Actually, what is the deviation from the white paper for Bitcoin?
So Bitcoin BTC, they're trying to make it into a settlement layer, and they openly say that the fees should be high, the confirmation should be unreliable, and that it shouldn't be used as money. They say that people should just hold it, but if you read the actual title of the Bitcoin white paper, it says Bitcoin, an electronic peer-to-peer electronic cash system, meaning it should be used as cash, and it was laid out right there from day one how it could scale to be money for the entire world. And the Bitcoin Core supporters today, they're hostile to the very idea of using Bitcoin as money. And if you're hostile to using Bitcoin as cash, it's not Bitcoin.
All right. So then in reality, is Bitcoin Cash used as cash?
Absolutely. So it has, you can spend Bitcoin Cash on more than 100,000 websites around the world. You can book your hotel room right here in this hotel in Bitcoin Cash. You can buy your flights to come here to Korea in Bitcoin Cash. You can do absolutely anything you want with Bitcoin Cash right now, today.
And how many transactions are happening per day?
I'd have to check the charts, but in the thousands at least, maybe tens of thousands.
All right. I mean, that's not much, though, right? I mean,
no, because it's still very early days. So the chains just split almost exactly 1 year ago today, and so the fact that Bitcoin Cash Bitcoin Core managed to keep the Bitcoin name and the Bitcoin infrastructure, even though it wasn't the Bitcoin described in the white paper. Bitcoin Cash has been around for about a year, and the fact that it's, depending on the day of the week, second, third, or fourth most popular cryptocurrency in the world in terms of trade volume and stuff happening on it, that's a pretty amazing accomplishment. And if you look at all the new things that are happening, the vast majority of those new projects are being built on Bitcoin Cash. They're no longer being built on top of Bitcoin Core.
So then, I mean, just based on the current kind of, Bitcoin Cash, speed of transaction, and also, the fee structure, do you think that's it's qualified to be cash? I mean, is it really working, like PayPal and like fiat money?
It absolutely can and is. And if you go back and if you think that Bitcoin can't scale to be money for the whole world, go on the Internet Archive, which is a website that allows you to view old versions of websites, and go and read the Bitcoin.org website from 2011, 2012, 13, 14, or 15, and you can see described right there how Bitcoin was designed and intended from day one to become money for the entire world. And only recently, due to the censorship going on within the English-speaking Bitcoin community, have they managed to trick the world into thinking that Bitcoin can't scale on-chain to be money for the world. And the Bitcoin Cash people haven't been fooled by that censorship and propaganda, and we still believe in the original Bitcoin as described by Satoshi Nakamoto in the white paper, being cash for the world and being used to bring more economic freedom to people all over the world, because at the end of the day, Bitcoin and digital currencies are just tools, and they're tools that we want to use to bring more economic freedom to the world, and that's what makes the world a better place. It's not the fact that something's named Bitcoin, it's the fact that it brings more economic freedom to the world that makes it a good thing.
Yeah. But I mean, we cannot deny that actually, I mean, there's still, a lot of volatility in the coin's, value, right? And that makes actually kind of, coin seems like asset to me. I mean, what is your response to that? Because Bitcoin Cash also, I'm following it, but, it's not like cash, because the volatility is too high.
The volatility of Bitcoin Cash is very similar to the volatility of Bitcoin Core, but I've been hearing these arguments that, oh, Bitcoin's too volatile. I've been hearing that since 2011, when Bitcoin used to triple or quadruple in a single day and then drop by, 2/3 in a single day.
Right.
So the stability is much, much, much better than it used to be.
But
there's still a long, long way to go. We need to get more people around the world using it as cash. We need to have more exchanges, more liquidity, more of all this thing. And as the market cap grows, the volatility will dampen down.
All right. But what about the regulation? Because, shouldn't there be some kind of a regulation if it's really a fiat money kind of type of thing, used in our daily life? I mean, right now, the market's not regulated yet, right? What do you think about that?
Can you define what you mean by regulation?
I mean, like in Korea, right now, I mean, the government's just talking about, imposing tax, or regulating the, exchanges, for instance, but basically there's no regulation regarding, crypto trading, the exchanges, every area of crypto. I mean, that's what I was, referring to.
So it sounds to me like you're referring to having one small group of people decide for everybody else what they can and can't do with their cryptocurrencies, and if they don't obey that small group of people, the mass group of people will be sent to prison or have other bad things happen to them. And of course, philosophically, I'm opposed to that sort of thing. I think individuals should be in charge of their own lives, and they can decide for themselves how they want to use their cryptocurrencies.
Right. But, I mean, no, I think a little bit differently, because right now I don't like the aspect that the coin market is totally not regulated, because I think there's a lot of manipulation going on because of that. Because it's like just growing conspiracy theory to me, in my view. Because for instance, if there's an exchange hack and then the coin value drops, in that case, what I think is is this a real hack, or was it just kind of to manipulate the market? But I found out it's not only me. A lot of people think like that. I mean, what is your position to that?
So do you think the politicians know how to solve that better than the market participants would know how to solve those problems?
No, not at all. But I still believe that actually, I mean, regulation has both the bad side and the good side. But the good side is actually to protect people from these bad players in the market, right? I mean, I'm just referring to that part. I'm not. I don't like the centralization of everything and just make the companies big, the government big. But on the other hand, I think there needs to be some regulation. I mean, that's my view, because otherwise, really, I mean, I see it. I'm also involved in OTC trading, and when I see this huge amount of cash and coins moving around without being detected, I mean, it's good, all right. I mean, it's an anonymity. I understand it, but from a ordinary person who doesn't have that kind of capability, I mean, it looks like these guys are just ready to manipulate the market. I'm always worried about it. I mean. Like me, it's just like ordinary people like me.
So I'm not part of your OTC group, but I'm guessing that within this OTC group, people know all the other people, and there's a bunch of internal regulation to keep track of who's dealing what with who, and to make sure that nobody cheats anybody else. And I suspect that pretty much all of that is done without having this outside government entity come in and meddle in the affairs of your OTC group. And I think that's a fantastic example of how the market helps protect the participants and protect the consumers that are involved in there. So I'd like to see more market-based regulatory solutions rather than one-size-fits-all government-imposed regulatory solutions.
But I mean, I think this is a very important aspect, because I'm very interested in that aspect. But I mean, because there are only a few people who really have this huge cache of cryptos like Bitcoin, BitcoinCash, or Ether, and actually it's possible for these guys to actually kind of control the market, and I don't think that's right.
So do you think some other people with guns should come in and boss them around to make sure that they don't do what they want with their own cryptocurrencies? Because that's the only alternative.
No, okay, let's talk about spoofing, all right? Because, a couple of weeks ago, I read an article about SEC, they're cracking down on spoofing. Do you think that's necessary or not?
So I think if I own cryptocurrency and if I want to offer them for sale on a market order book, it's my cryptocurrency to do so, and I think it's none of the SEC's business because it doesn't belong to them.
But in this case, I mean, they're just trying to manipulate the market, right? Spoofing is like faking. I mean, they're not real, sell orders, right? I mean, they're more like, buy orders, I mean, they're just fake.
Buy or sell, you can do it in either direction.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think that's right, actually.
Then maybe you can work on an exchange that maybe the market can solve the solution. What if we had exchanges where once you place an order, you're not allowed to remove the order from the order book for 60 minutes or a day or something like that, and that could solve that problem right there. So I don't think you need the SEC to come in with guns threatening to shut down businesses if they don't obey them in regards to spoofing stuff. If there's a demand for it, and it sounds like some people like yourself are concerned about that, maybe we can talk to some of the exchanges here, BitThumb or Binance, or take your pick and say, hey, what do you think of the idea of having, once you place an order on the order book, it has to stay for X number of minutes or hours or days? And that would solve that problem without having to get the SEC involved.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, if that can be possible, that could be an option, but I don't think, that's going to be very possible because, these exchanges are actually, controlled by people who are in there for the money. That's my belief. It's not, I mean, they're not, really concerned about the public. They're only in there for the money. That's my view, and I think, a lot of people out there will share that view with me.
So the way businesses become successful is by being in it for the money. The way they get the money is by serving their customers well. So they want to make sure their customers have a good user experience, so they come back over and over again, and they can earn more money from those customers over a long period of time. So
right.
I think that's absolutely true.
All right. Anyway, so I mean, I read a recent article. You said that actually Ether will be much valuable in the future than Bitcoin, right? And
so the mass media reported me as having said that. What I actually said is that it could happen, and then the media reporter Roger said it will happen. So it could happen and will happen are two very different things, but I stand by the words that it certainly could happen.
All right. Okay. And what is the background of your judgment?
Why do I think that? Is that the question? So there's already way more transactions happening on the Ethereum network every single day, and on some days more trade volume as well. So at the end of the day, the price of anything is set by supply and demand. So if the supply of Bitcoin and Ethereum are somewhat limited, and the demand increases for Ethereum because you have all sorts of tokens and all sorts of people starting to use it for payments, and the Bitcoin core crowd is hostile to the actual idea of using it as money, so they're taking away that entire use case. Of course, I think that the coins that are scarce and useful are going to be worth more than the coins that are scarce and not useful.
Yeah, all right. I mean, I kind of have the same view on that. But I mean, regarding the blockchain, scalability problem and latency problem, what you guys are doing on what is that, BitcoinCash right now? I mean, to make it more scalable, to make it more, to speed up the transaction.
Sure, BitcoinCash already has somewhere in the ballpark of about 30 times the transactional throughput capacity of Bitcoin Core, and it's not even close to being saturated at this point. So we have scaling for days and days and days, no issue there at all. BitcoinCash transactions are already lightning fast. And if you've been a Bitcoin user for a long time, BitcoinCash works exactly the way Bitcoin worked in 2011, 2012, 2013, 14, 15. All the time period in which Bitcoin became popular worldwide, Bitcoin Cash still has those same characteristics. Bitcoin Core no longer does. So I think there's a lot more reason to be bullish on Bitcoin Cash than on Bitcoin Core. But to be fair, the one big thing that Bitcoin Core still has going for it is the big network effect. It has the Bitcoin name, and it has a lot of people that are holding it, even though they don't fully understand the underlying characteristics of what made it valuable in the first place. So don't underestimate the power of network effects. They're incredibly powerful. But as we've seen with things like MySpace and Friendster before it, network effects can be overcome. If the user experience becomes bad enough, people will switch. And we saw people switch from Friendster to MySpace, and then MySpace to Facebook. I think there's a very good chance that if the user experience continues to be bad on Bitcoin Core, which is being bad by intentional design of Bitcoin Core supporters. They openly say they want the fees to be high. They openly say they want the blocks to be full, which causes the transactions to be slow, expensive, and unreliable. If they continue to succeed in doing that, people will switch from Bitcoin Core to something else.
Yeah, but actually that story is really counterintuitive for me. Why do you think the Bitcoin Core team stick to that kind of stance?
Plain and simple, without mincing words, they're a bunch of economic ignoramuses, and they need to pick up an economics book and learn about economics, and they absolutely change their tune.
All right. Yeah, it totally seems like they know nothing about economics.
Yeah. And to be honest, they can run circles around me when it comes to the computer science side. Like I have a computer science background, but certainly not to the same level as those guys. But they haven't even picked. I'll pay for your books. Right? Adam Back, contact me. Samson Mao, contact me. All of you core guys, Jimmy Song, contact me. I will pay for some books. And in fact, if you guys, we'll start with a book, Economics in One Lesson. Any of you guys, if you read Economics in One Lesson, just sit in front of a camera, read the book. I think it'll probably take you, I don't know, maybe 6 hours to get through it. I'll donate $10,000 to the charity of your choice for reading Economics in One Lesson on video. Upload it to YouTube so we have the proof of it. We'll have a nice audio book from Adam Back or Samson Mao or Jimmy Song or Charlie Lee, or take your pick of any of these economic ignorant people. And you're not born with knowledge, right? You have to study in order to understand something. So the best way to do it is to pick a book. So I have an offer out there for all of you guys for about probably 6 hours of your time. I'll donate $10,000 to the charity of your choice to read Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt. It's a fantastic book, and it'll change your view of the world, and you'll understand the world more clearly because of it.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice.
Yeah, thank you. I agree. It's good advice. Study economics and you'll understand how the world works much better.
Right. I mean, I got an MBA from Columbia, and actually economics was kind of boring, but still very useful subject.
And to be honest, I think a lot of the economics they teach at Columbia probably isn't the real economics.
Yeah,
so
yeah, and it's outdated. But anyway, I mean, what was your kind of cut teeth moment, in crypto, because earlier you had actually different professions, right? And then you kind of really entered into the crypto area as an early adopter, and then you got really successful. I mean, how was the transition actually made?
So I've been a tech entrepreneur in Silicon Valley since I dropped out of college because my tech company started to really take off and do well. So I've been in tech my entire life. And studying economics has been my hobby almost my entire life. So if you think about it, Bitcoin is a convergence of those exact two things, computer science and economics. So I had the exact perfect background to understand and appreciate why Bitcoin was going to be popular, and that's why I became the world's first investor in the entire industry, and that's why people like Adam Back, who had a direct invitation from Satoshi himself to get involved, poo-poo the whole thing. Not because he didn't understand the computer science, it's because he didn't understand the economic aspects.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very, very important. I mean, for the advancement of all this, thing that's going on right now in the crypto world, I think, we need a lot of people who are actually kind of, versatile, both not only technology but also in economics or finance, that kind of stuff.
And business.
Yeah, it's even more important. That's what I think.
Yeah. It takes all the pieces of the puzzle. If you don't have it all, it doesn't work.
Right. Like Bitcoin. I mean, I don't even, can fathom, why Bitcoin is that, precious right now.
Yeah, they've intentionally destroyed the utility of Bitcoin, and the utility is what drives the price, right? So if you destroy the utility, people are going to stop using it, and if people stop using it, the price at some point will collapse.
But I think, isn't it true that actually, Bitcoin was like, the first crypto, right? And everybody, when it comes to crypto, they associate with Bitcoin, right? Isn't that actually why it's so valuable still?
I think you're right. They're just riding on their coattails at this point.
Yeah, because it's just freaking code, right? Yeah. It's nothing more.
And then it's open source code that anybody can fork.
It's
That's right.
I mean, it's so fucking slow. It doesn't make any sense in the real world.
All the cryptocurrencies have to compete on the open market with every other cryptocurrency, and at the end of the day, the cryptocurrencies that are the most useful as currencies will be used as currencies.
Right.
So. The fact that the Bitcoin core crowd are hostile towards the very thing that made Bitcoin a success in the first place really doesn't bode well for their future.
Okay, so what kind of measure are you taking right now to actually transition us, crypto into our life? You understand what I'm saying, right? I mean, what kind of effort are you doing right now? What kind of effort are you planning to turn Bitcoin Cash or other coins into real fiat money?
So the merchant processors are really the real big keys to that, the exchanges and the merchant processors. So we already have BitPay that's launched Bitcoin Cash across every single website, more than 100,000 websites accept Bitcoin Cash through BitPay. And the same has been done now with Coinbase as well. Coinbase has full integration of Bitcoin Cash on their platform as well. And you have pretty much every exchange around the world has Bitcoin Cash on their platform. And this wasn't because it's not because they didn't like Bitcoin Core or BTC, it's because BTC was intentionally broken by the Bitcoin Core developers and it no longer worked in business. Mm-hmm. So if it no longer was useful, people had to look for an alternative, and Bitcoin Cash was right there ready to pick up the slack.
All right, but what about, still, I'm going back to, the volatility, but we cannot deny that actually, if we compare, fiat money to Bitcoin Cash, the volatility is like, incredible, right? It's incomparable. That's going to be a huge hindrance actually for people to kind of, adopt it as a fiat currency. I mean, how do you plan to kind of overcome it? So how to make it steady? In
the short term, the volatility is an issue, but if you look at it in the long term, you should want to be exposed to as much of that volatility as you possibly can over as long a period of time as you possibly can, because as more and more people start to use it as money, because of the limited supply, with the increased demand, the price will go up. So even though it can be volatile day from day, up and down, the long-term trend is up.
All right.
For Bitcoin Cash. For Bitcoin Core, I'm not so bullish anymore.
Okay, but if I see the kind of, the coin market, cap trend, there was the crash in February or sometime, and then, on April it got a little bit high again, and then it crashed again, and then right now it's just slowly moving up. How do you see the trend going on in the future for Bitcoin Cash?
For Bitcoin Cash, I think the future is incredibly bright. There's merchant adoption on more than 100,000 websites around the world. Bitcoin.com is busy promoting Bitcoin Cash full time. Pretty much all the people that are actually using cryptocurrency as currency are busy integrating Bitcoin Cash. So the future is incredibly bright for Bitcoin Cash.
Okay, do you think that fiat aspect is only for Bitcoin Cash, or do you think other coins also have the potential to become actually fiat currency?
They're all competing with each other for that market space, and the ones that are the most useful useful as cash will be the ones that are used the most as cash.
All right, then my next question is, I mean, I know that you already implemented these payment gateways or POS in Japan and in other countries, especially online. Do you have any plan, I mean, if you're successful, to actually adopt other coins as well on your platform?
I think the entire world works better when they're all using the same form of money. And it's very inconvenient to go from Korea and use one type of money to Japan to another, to Germany to another, to the US to another, to Canada. Like, this is the year 2018. Why do we need to have 100-something different types of money around the world?
Right.
Let's all start using the same form of money. And I think the network effect of money is incredibly powerful. So I think there's a really good chance we can see the vast majority of the world using one particular cryptocurrency as money. And I think Bitcoin Cash has a very good shot of being that one.
Oh, and you think it's going to be Bitcoin Cash?
It's certainly not guaranteed to be, but I think it has the best shot out of the ones that are out there right now.
All right. So right now, you're kind of, I mean, just giving a benchmark, at least, right? Worst case scenario to other coins, how they should actually develop and advance in the future, right?
So I'm a fan of anything that works. And so if you look out there, there's a bunch of cryptocurrencies that work, and the biggest difference are the network effects they have. So Bitcoin Cash has a giant network effect and works great. Dash works great as well, but it has a smaller network effect. And then there's other things like, Dogecoin has a much, much, much smaller network effect and doesn't work quite as well because they have, an unlimited supply. But so all of these are competing on the market. But from my point of view, Bitcoin Cash has the best characteristics, including the market share and mind share of the public. I think there's more reason to be bullish on Bitcoin Cash than any other cryptocurrency out there right now.
All right, and then right now, I mean, when it comes to coin, actually, I don't think anybody can kind of, really define each coin. For instance, we're going to have, security tokens, we're going to have, utility tokens, we have coins, right? I mean, in the future, how do you think it will be categorized? Like, for instance, there are coins, used in our real life as, fiat money, and there are coins for utility, coins for security. I mean, is that going to be the kind of landscape you see, or how do you see it?
I think the variety is the spice of life, and the more things we get to try, the better off we all are. And then people can decide which one of these new things are most useful in their lives, and then they can use the ones that are useful and ignore the ones that aren't.
But it's possible, right, in your view that it's going to be categorized like Ether is regarded as a utility token, for instance?
Of course, yeah. There's all sorts of tokens. There's going to be security tokens, utility tokens, tokens we haven't even figured out what they're going to use for those tokens for. So all sorts of stuff is going to happen. But for me, the most interesting characteristic of this entire ecosystem is the money aspect, being used as money. And I think Bitcoin Cash has the best shot at being used as money for the world.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean the tokens are going away. It's just one more use case.
Okay. And that's going to be very good for your kind of the value of the Bitcoin Cash.
It sure will, yeah.
Right. Okay. Then the other thing, I mean, do you have any plans to kind of transform your platform into type of Ethereum, where you put on dApps, create a marketplace? I mean, is that also in your plan for Bitcoin Cash?
So Bitcoin Cash is this permissionless development platform in which people can build whatever they want on top of it. So we're already seeing a whole slew of tokens coming to Bitcoin Cash, and there's a bunch of different competing implementations that are competing but not exclusive. So there can be multiple different implementations of tokens on top of Bitcoin Cash. Smart contracts are already here on Bitcoin Cash. All sorts of exciting stuff are happening on top of Bitcoin Cash. And the fact that the transactions on Bitcoin Cash cost about 1/5 of a penny and they go through basically instantly, that's a really, really, really big advantage it has over all the other cryptocurrencies out there at this point. And the fact that it has this giant, worldwide name recognition and branding and network effect, that's a really powerful thing.
All right, makes sense. And everybody says that, there's some people they're saying that, I mean, the future of the token will be security token, but what do you think about that? Because you most probably will hate these security tokens.
No,
right?
I think security tokens are some of the most interesting and useful ones. I love security tokens.
Why?
Because they're incredibly useful. Why is the stock market useful? Because it's a giant securities exchange, right?
Yeah.
So now let's do that on the blockchain where anyone anywhere in the world can participate with any other company anywhere in the world. This is fantastic. It's one of the things I'm most excited about, and it's probably one of the things the SEC is the most upset about, because we're not going to need them anymore. People are going to figure out how to regulate these things without needing the SEC to get involved. So I think it's fantastic.
Well, I mean, the definition will come from the SEC kind of, type of governmental organization, no?
If the government says that the sky is red and it's not blue, does that make it true? No. So
it does, of course.
It doesn't make it true, yeah. So like if the SEC says that this is a bad thing, even though the entire world knows it's a good thing, well, writing down words on a piece of paper and calling it a law doesn't alter reality.
All right. Okay. Oh, that's a very different view, actually. Because when I heard that security token kind of argument, I thought that's actually everything's putting in a more centralized kind of environment. That was my thinking at the time.
I love security tokens. Put me on quote on that.
All right. Okay. I have to rewatch this video later maybe. But the other thing is, because most of the audience will be not savvy, investors. They are just earning their life every day, and they put their money because they believe in crypto as a, as a future kind of fiat or asset, and they're losing a lot of money in the way. I mean, from an expert point of view, I mean, you're the creator, for Christ's sake. I mean, do you have some kind of comment to these, small people, how to invest, in coins?
So the advice is the same even before cryptocurrency. The advice is that diversify, diversify, diversify. Don't put all of your eggs in one basket, and don't only invest in one single cryptocurrency. Either hold a basket of cryptocurrencies. But if you're new to all this and you're learning about it, go to free.bitcoin.com, and we give free Bitcoin Cash to anybody who wants some. It's about 10 cents worth or 100 won worth, and anybody can try it out and see exactly how it works right there at free.bitcoin.com.
Yeah, I think that was a very effective gimmick, actually.
And that's how I received my first Bitcoin ever, was some free Bitcoin from a Bitcoin faucet run by Gavin Andreessen. And we're doing the exact same thing today on Bitcoin Cash because it's impossible to do on Bitcoin Core today.
And do you also do a lot of contribution for the greater good of humanity and our world? Yeah,
I just donated $100,000 to a charity run by Coinbase that's going to be donating money, cryptocurrencies to people all over the world. I offered $10,000 to some of these Bitcoin Core people to read an economics book. Previously, I donated over $1 million to the Foundation for Economic Education because I think educating people when it comes to economics is incredibly important. So, yeah.
And another thing is, I want to get a view about your, your view against, ICO projects, because you know that, I mean, 2017 was like, they only had
four ICO projects actually. So I'm a giant fan of ICOs because I think they allow any investor anywhere in the world to invest in any entrepreneur anywhere in the world. But like anything, buyer beware, or in this case, investor beware. So don't invest in things you don't understand. If you don't understand it, don't invest in it. And be careful, because there are a lot of scams out there. There's a lot of bad people that are going to take your money and run away with it. And the SEC hasn't done anything to stop that. The FBI hasn't done much of anything to stop it. And at the end of the day, it's up to the consumers to be careful, and the market needs to figure out a way to take care of that, because the market's much more effective at dealing with those sorts of things than legacy centralized institutions with a bunch of men with guns that don't even understand what it is they're trying to get involved with anyhow.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you see this trend? Because there was a time when ICO was really truly ICO. So these retail investors want to get a share, of this big good startup project. But right now, what happened is that most of the ICO projects, I talk to them a lot, and they are really depending on private placements right now. So like up to 80% is from private and 20% is ICO. And on top of that, I mean, in Korea, mostly, the trend is like reverse ICO. So big companies like, there's already established, online platforms, or, just high-tech companies. I mean, they're turning into the ICO markets. I don't like it. What is your view on that?
Why don't you like it?
Because I think that, ICO is more like a funding, mechanism for innovative startups. Right? Because, these big companies, if they want to, if they want to get money, they can use the public market.
Maybe the fact that these big companies are using the ICO market to raise money shows that the ICO market is a more effective tool for financing than the legacy markets. And I think that that's a good and interesting thing and an experiment. And at the end of the day, I think people should be allowed to do absolutely anything they want with their own money, so long as it's peaceful.
All right. But I mean, this kind of, impact the market. That's what I'm telling you. Because, I met a, investor group, all right? And they were only interested in reverse ICO. And the only reason is because, they lack the ability to actually assess, this, early startup. And also they, the reverse ICO, I mean, it's a big company already, and has proven record of business, right? And they can rest assured about it. And I didn't like that,
Maybe we're witnessing the end of traditional stock markets, and maybe all of this is about to head its way into the the online blockchain world of digital currencies and ICOs and distributed stock exchanges.
I mean, if you see it that way, right? Yeah.
It seems to be headed that way.
Right. So it means, on the other hand, I think that, because there were a lot of scams, right? I mean, people have to, I mean, they lost because of scams, right? So, I mean, everything is tightened up, and it's getting more like it's not the traditional way. It's more like, because, investors have to assess, the early startup as much as they can, right? And have to kind of predict the risk.
Yeah, buyer beware. And scams have been around for centuries, and scams aren't going to disappear because of the invention of the blockchain. We should work on things to minimize the amount of people that are able to scam other people, but utopia is not an option as much as we would like it to be. The blockchain doesn't solve all problems, and it doesn't solve the problem of scams. So buyer beware. Do your own due diligence.
All right. So what do you think? This is my last question. What do you think about stable coins, or governments talking about, or central banks are talking about issuing their own kind of stable coin, right? I mean, like fiat money. I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think this is going to be realized, or?
I think they should go for it, and they have to compete on the open market against everything else. And at the end of the day, I'm not such a fan of these so-called stable coins because they're not really stable. We know year after year they're going to go down in value over time. Whereas the value of other digital currencies like Bitcoin Cash, they're not guaranteed to go up over time, but the value of the yuan and the US dollar and the euro are guaranteed to go down over time. So let's all compete on the market.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just my thought, all right? But when governments or central banks start to issue their own coin, I mean, they have their regulation and politics on the back, right? I mean, don't you think that's going to kind of act as a formidable force for them and kind of beating all the other coins like Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Cash?
The network effect is incredibly important. If governments go and issue a stable coin, they get everybody to use it, it'll be hard to get people to use something other than that. So timing is of the essence, and that's what frustrated me so much about the scaling debate that happened within Bitcoin, is that it delayed the adoption of cryptocurrencies around the world by years because of the censorship and propaganda put forth by the Bitcoin Core side, which hindered the adoption of cryptocurrencies around the world. So we should move quickly as fast as we possibly can if we want people to be able to use a cryptocurrency in which they're in control and it's not central bankers and traditional governments. And I think Bitcoin Cash has the best shot of doing that.
Okay. Do you have any last words for the audience in Korea?
If you're new to Bitcoin, 안녕하세요, 로지입니다. And if you're new to Bitcoin, please go to bitcoin.com. You can learn all about it, get a free Bitcoin wallet, get some Bitcoin Cash, play games, read the latest news, do everything right over there. Give it a try today.
It's fun.
And
I did it.
Tell a friend.
Yeah, I did it. I'm going to do that.
Thank you.
It's fun. It's fun. I just seeing how it processes speed, everything. I think it's the best evidence. Yeah. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. All right. This was Tom Koo from the Tom Koo Live channel. I was here with a very special guest, Roger Ver, and it was a very interesting conversation. I hope you like it, guys, and get ready for the next challenge next time.
Bitcoin Cash, Gaja.
Gaja. Oh, Gaza. All right. Okay. Cool.